Motive is excused. Reed? Reed? She's muted. Rolke?
Here.
Steiner?
Here.
Thank you. Steiner?
Present.
Okay, if you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances, and I'm now looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Alder Steiner will approve tonight's agenda. Alder Steiner will motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Alder Gray seconds.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Under correspondence and communications, I think we're going to start off tonight by honoring members of the Columbus Fire Department. We actually have some proclamations, and we have 3 members who are going to be retiring after many, many years of service to the city. And so it is my honor to present each of them, those who are, of the 3 who are here, who are able to attend tonight, with a framed proclamation honoring their service to Columbus and to the fire department. The first person I'm going to ask to just come over here to the little stand thing over there is Todd Hornbacher. And Todd was appointed to the fire department in 1991. So Todd, thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it. And here you go. Thank you. Thank you for coming. You will want to take we'll do a take 2. Perfect. Okay, great.
Oh, kind of got him for you.
Oh, so you're right, you're way ahead of me. Okay, the second firefighter that we want to honor tonight is Mark Kennevan. Is Mark here? Oh, good. Mark, you were appointed in 1977 to the fire department.
Yes.
You must have been 10 years old at the time. Thank you so much for your years of service. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there you go, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, and the third person that we are honoring tonight is Bill Klutzman. And Bill was appointed to the Columbus Fire Department in 1975.
I was only 5 years old.
5 years old, yeah. So thank you so much, Bill, for your many years of service to our city.
Thank you.
Such an important job, and we really appreciate it. And you got a great handshake, too. Should run for office.
I have time, though.
Okay, yeah. Now, do we need to do the handshake again? Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now, has anyone signed up to speak? Okay, so we have Joe Hammer.
Oh, he's for the count.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're for the cow. And these are all for the cow?
No.
Oh,
These are-
okay, we have 2 for the regular meeting tonight. Okay, Tori Wiedemann. Also for the cow? Okay. Dave Mullane? Okay.
That's this one.
That actually is it is on the agenda for the regular meeting. So if you want to come and talk now, this would be the time.
I promised to go a lot faster than last time, so I apologize for hijacking it.
And can you state your name, too? and
Dave
address?
Malin, 156 West James Street.
Great.
First, I would like to commend both Kyle and Jerry for their work on this. Oftentimes when we approach this, it's from the organization's point of view, and they brought excellent insight for the city's concerns. So I appreciate their work in this. I only had one tweak for on item number 2, and so that's why I'm not sure if you want to do this now or if you want to wait, but just adding July, so we've got June / so just adding July to that, and then that way we can circle whatever month it's beginning in. That was the only tweak to that.
Okay.
All the other changes were good, except for item number 11. So this was in regards to, we were originally going to leave one of the restrooms open for the carnival crew. That's what we've done in the past. We've since talked to them, came up with an agreement with them where if we supplied extra porta potties out for like the carnival town over there at the high school, that we could lock up that restroom and they don't need access to it. So my suggestion for number 11 and how it reads would be something along the lines that the organization agrees to be responsible for any damage to the interior of any facility within the park that is left unlocked. Since we have keys, it seems reasonable that if we forget to lock one of the buildings, that we would be responsible for those damages. As far as the exterior goes on any of the buildings or the interior for that matter, if we do lock it and someone breaks in, it's after park hours. With closing that restroom, there will be no one on the park except for the 2 owners of the carnival whose trailer their trailer gets parked, I don't know where you would want to call that. By the rest haven. By the rest haven, there's that little like pavement spot there. And they're there on site to make sure that people aren't actually destroying anything. Their rides are very expensive, and so they want to make sure that no one is on premises messing with their stuff. That coincides with our goal of making sure that no one messes with our stuff. We can absolutely provide those names to either the city, to the police department, whoever would like them ahead of time, so that way they know who's allowed to be there. If you want to add some sort of clause that no one is allowed in the park unless providing security with the names provided to the city in advance, that's perfectly reasonable as well. We tried to accommodate the request. As far as the restroom goes, this seemed like a pretty reasonable compromise that we close it. The park is closed. No one's allowed to be in the park. Therefore, the organization is no longer responsible for damages.
Okay. Thank you, Tori. We appreciate
Dave.
your comment.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, you're
That's
Dave.
all right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Dave.
That's okay. So any questions? I'm not sure if Attorney Johnson's on here, if he has any comments, or if that seems an agreeable compromise.
My guess is that if we're going to talk about it, we should probably wait until we get to the agenda item, having
Okay.
gotten your input.
Yep.
I think that will help us. Are you able?
I'll stick around.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, Dave. I thought you didn't look like what I remembered Tori looking like. So,
Hopefully I'm much
you know,
better.
both very nice looking guys, but. Okay, so, did Tori want to come up and talk now, or did Dave covered all the bases for you? Okay, good. All right, thank you. And so that is it for the speakers for tonight for the correspondence communication. And so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. I am looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Alder Albright can make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Alder Rolke will second.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so now we're moving on to new business. And I have to go back now and get to the first item, because I skipped ahead to look at the fourth item. And here we go. So the first item, I got it, is to consider council and citizen mayoral appointments to the boards, committees, and commissions. And I think you all have an updated version of the committees and commissions and boards that the alders have been appointed to, and then as well as a list of the citizen appointments that I've made this year. So I am looking for a motion to approve the appointments.
Alder Rolke will move to approve the appointments of Merrill Arnold to the city commissions and committees as listed on the agenda item.
Reed will second.
So it has been moved and seconded to approve the appointments to the boards, committees, and commissions. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. Okay, now we will move on to item number 2, which is to consider the CSA donation of lights to Meister Park. And I know Amy Jo is here and has already spoken with us about this. I think it's pretty straightforward, but so I will ask for a motion.
Alder Gray moves to approve the CSA donation of lights to Meister Park.
Alder Steiner will second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the donation from the Columbus Softball Association to allow their association to fundraise for lights in Meister Park. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next item on the agenda is to appoint a zoning administrator. Effective on Friday, the appointed zoning administrator position will be vacant because we're all very sad about losing Matt Schreiber, who's gonna, well, anyway, we're sad about it, Matt. And so one of the things we need to do is to decide who's going to take over those duties. So lucky for us, City Administrator Kyle Ellefson is willing to do that, and he is being recommended for appointment as the zoning administrator effective Friday, May 6th of 2022. And so I am looking for a motion.
Alder Gray moves to approve the appointment of City Administrator Kyle Ellefson as the zoning administrator.
And Alder Albright can second that.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve City Administrator Kyle Ellefson as the zoning administrator. Is there any discussion? Okay. In that case, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so now we're moving on to the item that our guests were talking about earlier, that Dave Malone was talking about, consider the MOU contract for the Fireman's Park rental agreement having to do with the 4th of July celebration. And Dave has already suggested I guess an edit to item number 11, and is available if anybody has any questions that they want to pose to him before we move to approve.
While you guys are thinking of questions, I forgot to thank Amy Jo. So special shout out to Amy Jo.
And so, given the comments made by the committee representative at this point, would we want to make a motion, or would the council want to take that into consideration and change the MOU? What would the,
Whatever the council moves to do.
okay, so I guess then, it's up to you, council members.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think that's fair if they're gonna keep everything locked up, providing we don't have any issues with something being unlocked and there's issues. I think this seems fair to make the change.
Anybody else?
For Alder Reed, looking at the number 11, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the change. So I'm thinking it would leave it in the first sentence, would still just have it. Organization agrees to be responsible for any damage to the facility within a park that can be lawful organization's possession of the park. Taking away the first part of the second sentence, the bathrooms are not going to be open at all times. And then leaving organization is responsible for any damage caused to the facility during the events. I still feel most comfortable leaving some of the language in.
I don't know if I'm allowed to respond for you. No, okay.
I would tend to agree with what Alder Reed said. So I think if we take number 11, keep the first sentence in its entirety, change the period after park to a comma, and add in the last part of the second sentence, organization is responsible for any damage caused to facilities during the event, and strike the rest of that sentence. I think that gets across the overall meaning behind everything, keeps responsibility where it should, because we have to keep in mind they are renting this. Like if you're renting a house and it gets damaged, it's not your landlord that's responsible. If you're renting a car and you get into an accident, it's not the car rental company that gets responsible. And we should not hold our citizens responsible for damage when we're renting out things, because that's really what it comes down to. The city is not paying for things, our citizens are paying for things, and we have to protect our citizens. And I think that protects everything without putting adverse or over-the-top protections against the organization, in my opinion.
Any other alders want to weigh in? Adam?
I would pretty much agree to the first sentence, the changes there. Upon the second one, I would just like to be very clear about what they're responsible for. So as opposed to the inside of any building or any unlocked facility, because they have keys and they're the ones responsible for locking it up. And if it's locked up, they can't be held responsible for something. So as opposed to in the second sentence, the organization is responsible for any damage caused to this facility during the event. For any unlocked facility, I think would be more appropriate to that. Because if they forget to unlock it and something happens in there, that's where they have security there, but they're supposed to have it locked up. They should have it situated that way.
I would agree with Adam Steiner's comments. I think that keeps it simple, and I think that's the overall meaning that we're all going for.
I agree.
I think if you want to make a motion, that'd be a good one.
Just for the record, we probably won't sign that. So if we could add, the organization is in possession of the park, possession meaning from the hours that we're allowed to be there, then we would absolutely agree to that. Anything that happens to any of the facilities while we are there, we will agree to those damages. At night, when the park is closed and no one's allowed to be there, but to make the organization responsible, I mean, we're just a group of unpaid volunteers who literally benefit nothing from this entire event. The city of Columbus, the reputation is boosted by having this event. Businesses in town, by all accounts, we would nearly double the size of the population of Columbus for the parade. The citizens of the town benefit because they have a wonderful festival that they can go to that's right here in town. It's not on some prairie, it's on Beaver Dam. Literally, we're the only ones that don't benefit from this. We just put in our time and effort. So I understand that we want to hedge the city, but it seems unreasonable to make the organization responsible when the park is supposed to be closed. If something happens to it, we don't have money, right? Any money that we make goes back to the city in the form of donations, evidenced by like the picnic tables, the roof. So if something happens, it's just us that's out there fixing it ourselves because we don't have the money to do it. This is an unpaid volunteer organization, and so to some extent, the citizens do have to have some stake in this, and the stake that we're asking is that if the park is closed and someone vandalizes it, that we're not responsible. If we leave something unlocked, 100%, that's our fault, that's our error, we should be responsible for it. But if someone breaks into the park after hours and we're not there, I don't know, it just doesn't seem fair that we're responsible for it.
I actually completely agree with Dave. I think we're splitting hairs over something that's unlikely to happen, and I do think the city has a lot more benefit than a group of volunteers do, and I would think that it's no more reasonable to hold the city or hold their committee liable for something after hours than it would be if I rented, the red brick building for the day to hold a baby shower, and overnight, before I was able to come back to the city on Monday and turn the key in, somebody broke in and vandalized it. I don't think that's fair. I agree completely.
I wonder if we should have our attorney weigh in?
This is no longer an issue for the attorney to weigh in. We're way past that. This is the attorney has the language in paragraph 11 the way the attorney wanted it a long time ago. So we're now in a policy decision that needs to be made by the council, and I'm happy to adjust this any way that is requested. So far, I've heard 5 different versions of these 3 sentences, so the council will need to just pick one and live with it.
Ian.
So I think what we all need to remember, and I'm very appreciative of you and your organization. One of the big things is this is a time for the council to deliberate. So please refrain from speaking unless called upon. But aside from that, we're setting a policy, we're setting precedent. And we are allowing renters to, yes, the main festivities are during the day, but they do have occupancy of an area of the park 24 hours. And I don't believe it's good policy or good precedent to completely forgo that just because on good faith. Because what other events could we have? What are we setting forward by saying that, yeah, nothing ever happens, that's fine. We need to protect our constituents and our taxpayers, and this is just logical. It is an end of the world event and next to almost uncertain, there's such a small likelihood that the city or anyone would ever go after the organization for any sort of compensation for anything that happened. This is more of a safety net for the cities and the constituents. I think we're going into the weeds on a lot of things for no reason. This is just something that moving forward, we should have memorandums of understanding. We should have contracts, and it's just good business. And I think if we make concessions for one, then what are we going to make a concession for next time? Are we just saying we're always going to allow concessions? And it's just unfair for future use, in my opinion. I think a simple change to 11, like Alder Steiner stated, or like I stated, or Trina stated, any one of those I would find agreeable, but I do not believe we need to strike it or change things grossly.
Well, I think Attorney Johnson made the point that it seems like we have a number of different proposals here. So I think maybe it's time, and I'm not sure, we don't really have one on the floor. So would someone like to move it so that we can move ahead, make a motion about changes to number 11?
For what it's worth, of all the versions that I've heard so far, I liked Alder Gray's the best. If you can remember what that was.
Kind of what I'm looking at now. So Alder Gray moves to approve the MOU with the following alterations to item 11. Item 11 shall read, organization agrees to be responsible for any damage to any facility within the park that can be locked while the organization is in possession of the park. And the organization is responsible for any damage caused to these facilities during the event. Upon conclusion of the event, organization shall return the park and all facilities to the city in broom clean condition.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Alder Steiner will second.
So it has been moved and seconded, as the Alder expressed. I didn't take notes, so I think I know what you said. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
No.
No.
So we have 3 ayes and 2 noes, so the motion passes. Okay, and thank you for coming tonight. And now we are going to move on to consider ordinance number 76922, an ordinance to create section 2-55 of the City of Columbus Code of Ordinances relating to remote attendance at meetings. This is something that we talked about in the Committee of the Whole last week regarding the ability of council members to continue to Zoom. We certainly encourage people to come in person whenever possible, but having the option to attend remotely is something that we think would be beneficial. And so what we need to do to move forward with this change is to, first of all, consider action to suspend the rules per section 2-46B of the city code. That's so we can actually move on this tonight, which we would like to do since I believe the order expires, is it May 14th or somewhere? Next meeting. And so if we suspend the rules, then we can move ahead with waiving the reading of the ordinance and then just go ahead and adopt the ordinance. So what I'm looking for, first of all, is for a motion to suspend the rules per section 2-46B of the city code.
Alder Gray will move to suspend the rules per section 2-46B.
Friedel seconds.
So it has been moved and seconded that we suspend the rules per section 2-46B of the city code. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay. So the next action that we need to do is to waive the reading of the ordinance per section 2-46A of the city code. So I am looking for a motion to waive the reading.
Alder Steiner will motion to waive the reading.
Gray seconds.
So it has been moved and seconded that we waive the reading of the ordinance per section 2-46A of the city code. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, now we can actually vote on whether we want to adopt ordinance number 769-22, an ordinance to create section 2-55 of the City of Columbus Code of Ordinances relating to remote attendance at meetings. So I am looking for a motion to adopt this ordinance.
Alder Albright can make a motion to adopt ordinance 769-22 to create section 2-55 of the City of Columbus Code.
Gray seconds.
So it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance number 769-22. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Great. Moving on to item number 6, to consider the Plan Commission recommendation for a zoning map amendment at Prairie Ridge Hospital. Matt's here to give us any information we may need.
I don't think there's really much to add. This is more of an administrative type approval. Came through Plan Commission. Plan Commission made a recommendation for approval. Essentially, there's two components. There's a zoning map amendment, which will allow the Prairie Ridge Hospital to do a CSM to combine the two lots into one parcel. So they need to essentially do the rezoning first and then have the CSM approved. So, but I'm here for any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Okay. In that case, I am looking for a motion to approve the zoning map amendment.
Alder Rolke will move to approve the zoning map amendment for parcel 11211-1508.13.
Alder Steiner will second.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve the zoning map amendment for the Prairie Ridge Hospital. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and then the next item on the agenda, item number 7, is to consider the Plan Commission recommendation for a CSM. Tell me again, what's a CSM?
Certified survey map.
Thank you.
For anything under 5, or creating 5 lots or less, or if you're combining lots or adjusting lot lines, a certified survey map is the preferred method. Actually, it's really the only method to make those changes, so.
Okay. And so I am looking for a motion to, let's see, to approve the Plan Commission recommendation for the certified survey map. Okay, love all these initials. It's like, yeah, for Prairie Ridge Hospital.
Alder Rolke will move to approve the Plan Commission recommendation for CSM to combine parcels 11211-1508.13 and 11211-1192.1.
Alder Albright will second that.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve the recommendation for the certified survey map. As noted, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is number 8, to consider the Columbus Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission's recommendation to select an architect for the Rest Haven project. And the committee would like to have permission to select, I believe it's Design Coalition and Roger Smith, is that right? Yeah, okay. And we got information about this at our last meeting. So I am looking for a motion to review and approve the architectural services for the Rest Haven project.
Alder Gray moves to approve the recommendation for the architecture of Design Coalition from the CHLPC for the Rest Haven project.
Alder Rolke will second.
So it has been moved and seconded that we approve the architectural services for the Rest Haven project as proposed by CHLPC. Is there any discussion? Okay, we will do a roll call on this one.
Gray,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Rolke,
Aye.
Steiner,
Aye.
Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Moving on now to the claims. And I just lost my agenda again. Okay, let's see. Thank you. So tonight we need to approve claims in the amount of $402,627.09. So I am looking for a motion to approve the claims.
Alder Albright can make a motion to move to pay the claims in the amount of $402,627.09.
Alder Steiner will second.
So it has been moved and seconded to approve the claims in the amount stated, and we'll do a roll call on this one.
Gray,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Rolke,
Aye.
Steiner,
Aye.
Albright.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, great. Now we'll move on to the mayor and the administrator reports. Kyle, take it away.
All right, thank you. A few things this evening, just letting the council know that I'm continuing to provide follow-up information to the consultant with McMahon, and a reminder that they will be here at a work session on Tuesday, May 24th. I sent out an email just kind of gauging if 6 or 6:30 was better, so if you do have a strong preference on one way or the other, just let me know. Brandon and I met with the auditor from Baker Tilly that's working on finishing up the sewer rate study. They're working to finalize everything, and we should expect additional information in probably the next month or so. They will be recommending increases based on increased costs and some flow reductions as well. And we may want to have a joint meeting at that time with Fall River and Elba because all of the rates get evaluated at the same time. But just know that that will be coming forward. I'm also gathering some more information regarding bringing in some help for zoning and planning duties with Matt leaving on Friday. I should know by the next meeting if there is anything for us to explore in the short term, just to get a little bit of technical assistance to help with any plan reviews or other zoning questions. So that remains to be seen if we'll need some help in that area just yet. Today there was a pre-bid tour for the CDBG project. So we're not, the pre-bid tour was today on the 12th, I believe, is when they opened the bids. We haven't been seeing a large amount of interest so far, but I know Rupert Milkey's staff were going to do some outreach to try to spread the word and get a few more people to take a look at the project and hopefully get some good bids. Highway 89, the sanitary work on the north side of the creek is nearing completion, and then the storm sewer in that segment is going to follow closely behind. Depending on weather, with the way it's been raining, they may be working on the creek culverts in about 2 weeks, I believe, and then they'll be starting to head south of the creek with the utility work. Later in the project, we know there will be a 2-week shutdown of the Highway 73 intersection, but that's going to be, again, later in the project. Traffic that we mentioned the last couple times has been significantly better, but still encourage people to stay out of the construction zone. It's not meant to be traveled through, and then use Waterloo Street or Avalon to get around if necessary. And the last thing is that we did interview several candidates for the administrative assistant position at DPW. And we actually had a lot of really good candidates to choose from. So hopefully we will have someone locked in by the end of this week and then starting within the few weeks after that. So I think that's encouraging for everybody and will take a little burden off of Jerry. So that's all I have.
Okay, great. Well, speaking of DPW, last Friday was Arbor Day, and Jerry Lenz, the director, and staff member Phil Kashub, and Kyle and David, our media coordinator, gathered at Fireman's Park, and we planted a maple tree there that had been generously donated by John Meister, and it was a lot of fun. We had nice weather; it didn't rain, so that was great. And I want to remind people that Red Bud Day is coming up Saturday, May 14th. And not only do I get to be a judge for the Prince and Princess contest, which I'm really looking forward to, we had a tourism meeting last night, and you may have heard that they're going to have a barbecue cook-off. And my understanding is that 11 people have signed up to cook ribs, that then there will be judges who will determine who gets to be the big winner. And if you are interested as a citizen, you can buy a ticket to be a judge and then try each of the different offerings. I think the tickets, they're still kind of working out the price on. Matt, do you know what they find? I think they're still working on the price. Okay, but it's reasonable, in my opinion. I mean, you can get a little taste of each offering, and then you can judge the contest too. And I think it sounds like a lot of fun. Boy Scouts are going to be there also selling brats and hot dogs, and there'll be a band, so it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, so privileged tonight to honor the firefighters. And I want to thank them again for all their years of service. The Farmers Market is going to open again this year on Wednesday, May 18th. It's going to be in the same location as it was last year, 150 North Ludington Street. I also want to say a note of appreciation to Matt. Really enjoyed working with you, Matt. I'm going to miss you. Darn it. And I hope things go very well for you, but you will definitely be missed. The final thing tonight, for those of you who don't know, it is the annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week is May 1st through May 7th. So, Pat, this is a surprise. She didn't know we were going to do this tonight. You do so much for the city. She is so helpful. She's so organized. She's so kind when I don't know things as a newbie and make silly mistakes, and always wonderful to work with. It's been a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And you get a proclamation, and you get your picture taken. And I think that may be all I have. You just double check here. Yep, that's it. So I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Alder Albright can make a motion to adjourn.
Alder Rolke will second.
So it has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right, everybody, I have Good evening, everyone. I have 7:21 on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the Columbus, Wisconsin Committee of the Whole. With that, if our city clerk, Pat Gable, could take roll call, please.
Albright.
Here.
Arnold.
Here.
Gray.
Present.
Motive is excused. Reed.
Here.
Rolke.
Present.
Steiner.
Present.
Thank you. And this meeting was properly noticed. So next up on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Have any comments or alterations? Then I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Alder Rolke will move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Alder Rolke and a second from Mayor Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. And moving on to citizen comments, we do have Joe Hammer here with us tonight, if you'd like to.
Hi, name is Joe Hammer. I live at 162 East School Street here in Columbus. I'd like to speak a little bit on the stormwater situation. Obviously, knowing that the referendum had failed, I realize you're going to be talking about it and what options there are to move forward with anything that needs to be done. The funds that Dominic talked about at last meeting about the COVID relief funds, I can't remember the acronym name, if it was ARPA or whatever, those are available for infrastructure improvements. I would hate to see anything future-wise be detrimental to any of the other departments because of money that would be needed for when ARPA funds are available that can be used for infrastructure improvements. So I hope that you all take that into consideration, that no other departments lose any of their ability to function. So, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Was there anyone else that wanted to speak during the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none. Then we will move on. Item number 5, in your packet, you will see the minutes from the CWL and the library. Were there any questions or comments on those? Seeing none. Moving on to item number 6 is to review the WWTF aeration diffuser upgrade. Looks like we have Dave online. Did you want to give us some more info on that?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Dave Arnott. I work with Jason Letha at Rupert Noki, and I am the team leader for water and wastewater at Rupert Noki. And I'd like to share some important information on the wastewater treatment facility. I've been working with Katie and the manufacturer for the last several months on an arrangement that was started back in 2014, where we had our an aeration upgrade project, the last project at the wastewater plant. As part of the selection, the supplier, which is Sanitaire, promised that they would provide materials free of charge to the city if the city chose to use their diffusers and their product. So the city did decide to use their product, and we have been coordinating for the last several months with Sanitaire. Again, they're the manufacturer, and we've come up with an arrangement where they will provide free materials for this upgrade. So the one catch is that the original configuration of the membranes has changed a little bit, so it's not going to be exactly a one-for-one replacement. So I've done coordination with the manufacturer. We have a preliminary design that we feel will work. The manufacturer has secured a contractor to remove the existing diffusers and install the new diffusers. So what this action item is two parts. One is a Rupert and Milky task order amount in the amount of $10,300. And that is for our coordination with the manufacturer for the final design, submittal to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for their approval, having a pre-construction meeting, doing general coordination, answering any contractor questions during construction, providing some inspections, and assisting the city in pay requests. So again, that's the Rupert and Milky piece for this. The other piece is the labor for the installation, and that will be done through Sanitaire. That quotation has been provided in your packet, and that amount is $38,400. I've reviewed that. I feel that is reasonable. So together with the labor piece and the Rupert and Milky task order, that's kind of what we're asking the committee of the whole to move forward and discuss tonight for approval by the council in 2 weeks. So the information is in your packets. This is very important. The aeration system is the main part of the treatment system at the plant. And these membranes are approaching the end of their useful lives. So the goal is to do this project this year, but with everything else, there are long lead times. So we'd like to lock in Sanitaire and get the ball rolling with this project. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. Looks like Katie's here as well. Did you have anything you wanted to add for us, Katie?
No, I'll just concur with Dave that, yes, we've been working together and they are at the end of their life. We're hoping to get this approved, and seeing as, like Dave was saying, we were hoping to actually get a complete replacement of these, but we're not able to, but this is as close as I believe we're gonna get. So if we were to have to pay for all new diffusers, I think that it would be a lot more, so this is actually a decent deal for us.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point, Katie. We estimated the total cost if you had to get, the materials with the city paying that themselves. The total cost would be about $95,000, what we estimate. So this is a good deal for the city. The manufacturer is following through 8 years later. So we kept that email and we followed through, and they have been responsive. And we feel this is the right path forward for the city.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate all of your hard work on this. Did anyone have any questions for Dave? Or go ahead.
I just have one question. So once we switch this out, what's the useful life of this, the new product?
Yeah, good question. These membranes will last for another 7 to 8 years.
Okay, so then in another 7 or 8 years, we'd be looking at 95,000 then to replace?
More.
It'll be approximately, yeah. I mean, this was a little bit different because it wasn't a one-for-one replacement. They're changing the configuration, so the cost for this time would be a little bit higher. It'll be maybe a little bit lower next time.
Thank you, Alder Albright. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, is everyone okay moving this forward to the regular meeting? Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Dave and Katie.
Thank you.
Then next up on the agenda is to review the Scout Cabin Agreement. We have Amy here tonight if you have any questions. So pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or anything for Amy Jo? Or everybody okay moving this forward as well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then next up on the agenda, we have item number 8, to review the defective sidewalk inspection, repair, and replacement. We have Jerry here with us tonight to go over that a little bit with us.
Good evening. What you have before you is a defective sidewalk inspection, repair, replacement policy, a program, if you will. The city of Columbus has approximately 190,000 feet of sidewalk within city limits. And if most of you have walked throughout the city, you're probably aware that many of these sidewalks throughout the city require some replacement and or attention. For many years, the city has allocated funds. Historically, this work has kind of been reactive, some grinding, some minimal replacements as needed. Never really any set plan in place on how we inspect or how we address replacing these sidewalks. The plan that you have in front of you is a policy that we want to set forth that gives us a pretty good directive. We've taken the city and we've divided the 190,000 feet, if you will, of sidewalk into a 5-area program with averaging, give or take, 34,000 feet of sidewalk per year. This policy puts in place a method for identifying defective sidewalks, procedures on how to notify residents of their options on how to repair or replace the sidewalk. And then obviously the cost. I know Brandon is available tonight. He's worked hard behind the scenes on setting up a program for assessment on the sidewalks. I do want to note that this policy before you has been something that's been in the works for several years here with the city. Former employees with the department, Kyle, and other directors have kind of slowly worked this policy into place, and we feel it's to that point now to present it to you. Some points of discussion that we want to include on this is the city's responsibility versus the homeowner's responsibility on the sidewalk, and we feel that we've addressed that. It's a pretty common policy throughout many municipalities on how that responsibility is separated. We provided a map, as you can see in your packet, on the different areas when they get addressed. This policy before you basically puts in place a good proactive replacement program, and I think the city for many years has been reactive. A lot of the funds have, again, just gone to cosmetically address some of the sidewalks, address trip hazards, and maybe address some of the worst complaints, if you will. This puts the city in a position of every year proactively going out to a given area, inspecting all the sidewalks. Any with issues are denoted, if you will. They are then reassessed and prioritized for replacement. We then take and decide whether these sidewalks are going to be a city replacement responsibility or a homeowner. Again, that's provided for you in this policy. And then we notify the homeowners and we address it from there. I think it's a good concrete program. And I want to know how important this is to the infrastructure of the city to have programs in place like this. Not only a inspection program, but a concrete program moving forward that denotes and sets funds aside to address the issues with the sidewalks. With that, if you have any questions, I know Brandon's available. He can answer anything on the assessment end of it. If you have any questions regarding the policy, I can be able to answer that for you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Did anyone have any questions for Jerry before we? Oh, go ahead, Trina.
Oh, thank you. I had a question on the repair part 4A. I guess I was just kind of surprised about the option if the homeowner is planning to hire someone themselves. They would then give the city a deposit for the amount of the money, and the city would return it after the homeowner had paid the contractor for it to be repaired. I guess it just sounded like a little bit of a hardship for a homeowner to be paying twice and then waiting for the refund, the way I was reading it.
Jerry, I could jump in on that. So as I look at that, they have 2 time periods. The first time period is they can fix it within 30 days. They can also optionally request in writing to be granted a delay of that sidewalk construction on the condition that they put the money on deposit with the city clerk, and then they have till the next July 1st to complete the repair, which would give them more time. The caveat being, if they don't do it, then we already have the money to complete the repair, I guess. And the other option is they could just tell us to go ahead and complete the repair, and we would bill them according to the special assessment policy that's already in place. So it's not just 30 days and they have to deposit. You get 30 days and you have the option of requesting that other arrangement as well.
Thank you, Kyle. I think that helps clarify it. Does that answer your question, Trina, or any other thoughts on that? Yeah, okay. Anybody else? No. Did anybody have any questions for Brandon about assessments and how that works? Seeing none? Oh, no. All right. And thank you, Jerry and Brandon, for working on this. Like Jerry said, this is something that the city has been working on for quite a while, so I'm glad it's coming to fruition. Is everybody okay moving this forward to? Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Just one other, one of the items that we wanted to touch on was if there's a preference on interest rate. Typically, when we do this as part of a street project, we tie that to the borrowing cost, but this is going to be paid from funds on hand. Right. And so we would want the council to either set a percentage in the policy or annually put something maybe in the schedule of fees or something to set what that rate is. I think we're okay either way. Simpler the better, honestly. Even a 3% interest rate.
Say that again, Kyle. You kind of got distracted with what you were saying. So you're talking about fees that are coming out of the funds?
Yeah, so as we carry the special assessment, it might take 10 years for them to pay it back. Oh. They do pay us interest over that time period on the outstanding balance. Typically, the policy would just take whatever money we borrowed to complete the street project that was part of, and then we tie it to that rate. We won't have borrowing, so we have to really pick our own interest rate. Like I said, simple might be better, so something simple like 3%, it might be high sometimes, it might be low. But the easier it is for us to apply, I guess we're not talking huge dollar amounts.
Right. I think that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like things to be simple. My only fear on simple things is they have a tendency to get outdated quickly. And then we're charging a rate that's either too high or too low for the times and things of that nature. So I'm of two worlds on whether we should keep it simple or whether we should pick an annual rate.
Well, can we just put a note in there that it's based on, we can increase it, based on what the interest rate is at the time?
Yeah, you could, I think you could set it kind of any way that you chose, and we could put it annually on the schedule of fees as well. I'm not positive. Paul might be able to help us with this. I think when you start the special assessment, whatever interest rate you charge, I believe, locks for that entire time period. So you would annually be choosing the new rate for new projects, but I don't think you would be changing the old. Is that correct, Paul?
Right.
That would be correct, yes.
So we could annually put on the schedule of fees at what that year's rate would be.
Yeah, I think a project-to-project rate would make more sense to me. I know it's a little bit more complicated, so annually would probably be sufficient instead of specific project-to-project.
So then are you suggesting, if somebody has to go to the maximum of whatever it was, that their interest rate would be actually higher? So if somebody has a max of 20 years, their interest rate would be higher? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think regardless of the term, I think our rate locks, Paul, does that sound correct, regardless of term?
Right, normally when you do a special assessment, you set the rate as part of the assessment, and then that is the rate for the duration of the repayment regardless. So you lock it in at the beginning and it stays there.
Yeah, I think just choosing a rate per assessment just makes more sense. It's because rates fluctuate so much, and I would hate to lock in 3% and then 2 years from now we should only be charging 2% and we're still charging 3 or vice versa. Just per assessment makes sense to me. Even though it is a little more work, I do apologize for that. What's the rest of council feel?
I agree with changing per assessment because it is more work, but it's, you have to be responsible to the people and not charge them random, fees for things.
It's fine.
Everybody's, okay, seen lots of nodding heads. So is everybody okay with moving this forward? And, I mean, as far as what the rate goes, I would defer to, I don't think we have the knowledge of choosing the rates, so that's...
Yeah, I think we'll bring something back to the next meeting. Brandon and I will look at some benchmarks maybe that we can say, either taking an average of a couple rates that we can go back to every year and get a comparison.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much. Everybody is okay moving that forward then? Perfect. All right, then next up we have, item number 10 is, or am I skipping one, sorry. Item number 9 is to review the Rukert-Milke task order of the 2022 street maintenance and the county aid and the BIL grant. Jason, did you want to talk to us about that?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Good evening and thank you, everyone. So this task order tonight was put in the packet after some deliberation with staff regarding two things. This is kind of a twofer. The first piece of it is our annual street maintenance. So those of you who have been around know that we do a series of maintenance activities annually, and they usually vary from year to year exactly what we're focused on. A lot of times it involves crack sealing or seal coating, particularly base patching, mill and overlay, that type of thing. So we've been meeting with staff, and we're kind of at the point of the year where in order to get this work accomplished this year, we have to get moving on it. And so we brought this task order forward tonight to kind of cover Rukert-Milke's services to start putting together the plans and the specifications and get contractor bids in front of you. And after some discussion with Kyle and Jerry, we've kind of arrived on the fact that, we've done a lot of crack sealing the last several years, and I think we're pretty far ahead on that. We have to kind of catch up with some of the seal coating and patching that we had patching, I believe, in the contract last year too, and that was a good use of dollars. So we're looking at 2 contracts again this year, one for patching and one for seal coating. I think we're going to kind of skip the crack sealing for 1 year. We don't want to abandon it. We'll get back to it. So that's kind of what the services are for the first part of this task order. And traditionally, again, is the design bid and the construction piece for us to help the city with. The other piece of this is the county aid work. I know that Jerry does a great job with that. He did last year. He's already filed his application this year again for the county aid. Rukert-Milke is there kind of for support on that. So there's a little bit of time kind of woven in there because it really kind of ties together with the street maintenance piece, but we'll be available for support on that. The second part of this task order is related to the BIL grant application. So BIL, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that was passed last November. There was a fair amount of money that was allocated down to the state governments for transportation, surface transportation, if you will. Right now, there is, or there has been a grant cycle that's already closed through the state of Wisconsin DOT. That covers TAP grants, that covers STP, which is the surface transportation grants, it covers bridges. The good thing is you guys have some great bridges, so that doesn't apply in the TAP grant. You just got one, so you guys are great on those 2 fronts. But there is this surface transportation grant out there. It's an 80-20 match on funding. So you pay 20%, the federal government picks up the other 80%. We've been doing some research on this, and we've been looking at potential for different communities that we're engineer for and what's available. And there are funds that are accrued under the STP urban program for communities, and you guys have some accrual that's already on the books. So you can leverage that with additional grant monies to do this. The grant coordinators are telling us, don't be too greedy and ask for too big of a project, but you certainly have the rights to, and you have some accrual already in that pot. So that does liken your chances to get funding for this. The next application is due June 3rd, so it's essentially selecting the street, putting together the information, and submitting it. Right now, we're targeting about a $500,000 project. That would be not necessarily a full reconstruct, but we're looking at projects where we might be doing a full depth mill and overlay. We might be doing some spot replacements. Along with that are upgrades of roadway sections for ADA compliance, so new ramps, parts of sidewalks that need to be replaced. So we are kind of getting an application idea together of what that would be. So that's the grant piece of this. So we would obviously be helping assist the city in pulling together cost estimates and information associated with that and getting that submitted in June. Our deadline is June 3rd. If successful, this wouldn't be a project this year. This would be as early as 2023. And it could be as late as 2026. So there is some time here to help you guys leverage your 20% match if you're successful with. And obviously on a $500,000 project, that's $100,000. So you're really getting a pretty good return on your investment here. So right now, that's kind of where we're at. So Rupert-Milke has some costs in here to help support some of the work that we've done, looking at some alternatives and pulling together the application and getting that submitted. So the task order kind of covers that in a nutshell. We would propose to have the street maintenance work done by October 1. So again, kind of fitting into that timeline process of us getting through that bid, design bid build cycle. And then the grant we would have submitted by June 3rd. As I think we have it listed here, I think the street maintenance was $11,000, and that's very similar to past years. And then the grant preparation is about $4,400. I do see in here, and I will apologize, any of you who have noticed there was an earlier task order in the packet. I believe there was a rate table attached to that. A rate table on this task order, if you've been a student enough to see, is a different one. This one is incorrect. I apologize. The city does get discounted rates from our firm, so this is our full rate table that we use as our standard rate table. So I'll get that replaced in here. It doesn't change the dollar values because those were lump sum fees that were just calculated for costs, but I just didn't want any confusion related to the rate table, so I apologize for that. But is there any other questions on the task orders?
Thank you, Jason. Alder Steiner, did you have a?
No.
Oh. Anybody, any questions or concerns for Jason? No. Everybody okay moving this forward to our next regular meeting then? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, then, next up on the agenda is item number 10, and this is to review stormwater utility fee referendum results. Let's see here. So, I mean, this one is really, we're not gonna figure it out tonight, of course. This is more to get the discussion going and figuring out the direction, helping give staff the direction that we want to go, of course. Well, I suppose we all know where we're at. Did somebody have something they wanted to start with or an idea to move forward? I mean, well, Shelley, you were, of course, very,
I always have a thought.
Go ahead.
Stuff. I sent an email so my first thought is, I think we need to start somewhere. And we talked about this when we had our meeting with Kyle and Jason and Sarah. I think we need to start somewhere. I'm assuming that's where the 150,000 came and that we reduced the levy or whatever. And there's a couple things. The one thing that I emailed Kyle about, we do, starting in 23, we don't have to pay EnerPac anymore. So I think with that tax rebate, I think that would be one place to start, where to use that for stormwater.
Just as a caveat, some of that money is allocated to the capital equipment plan to fund that in future years as well. So some of that money is kind of built into the forward-looking expenses that we have for equipment and for roads. But it's, I think we're trying to put the complete picture. So there could be some money there, or we could reduce the equipment and road projects equivalently.
So that was where I thought we should start. I think we need to start somewhere, personally, whether it's 100,000 or 150,000, and take the hit in taxes and figure it out.
Yeah, I think we need to start somewhere. My thought is, I don't know if it's logical to start at a dollar amount or if it's more logical to start at a project and then find the funding that's needed for that project. Because if we decide to put $150,000 into stormwater, but that doesn't cover enough to do a singular project, what are we really doing? It just doesn't seem logical to me to say, let's take 100 grand or 150 grand and throw it at something that costs 400 grand, and then we wasted 150 grand and have to spend the 400 grand later anyway. I think we should try to prioritize projects. And of course, prioritizing projects does cost some money, but I think, in my opinion, the first step should be finishing a full study of our stormwater and figuring out the projects and where we need to start. I think we need a plan for stormwater before we need funding for stormwater. Arnold?
I guess I would like to see I think our committee did a wonderful job. I went to every listening session, and you guys were just right on the money. I would like to see something similar with more citizen involvement. I'd like to see some of the residents who are really strongly affected by stormwater maybe included on the committee. I'm thinking back to the one referendum that the school district was able to pass in the last, I don't know how many years, 20 or 30. And the reason for it was they really got a lot of citizen involvement, people who were affected by schools, and that really includes everybody in the community. And I think in Columbus, that's the same story. We know that people who live in areas that flood are certainly affected, but that doesn't mean that the rest of us aren't also impacted by the flood issue in Columbus and the stormwater issue. I think if we can get more citizen involvement and they can, so it's not seen as something that the city is imposing on people, but rather it's a project that the community is behind, then maybe we can move the referendum in a more positive direction. Maybe not next year, but maybe the year after that. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mayor Arnold.
I'm definitely for citizen involvement, because, what they think matters, so, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely the ideal. We want to have more citizens involved and try to move this forward in the future. I see, Trina, you are unmuted. Did you?
Oh, nothing very practical at this moment in time. I'm just wondering if we could have some little mini projects where it's literal citizens with shovels involved. If there's some areas that are very shallow that some muck could be scooped up, just to really get a hands-on feeling of making improvements.
Thank you, Alder Reed. And I think things like that are a good idea. And that's kind of where I'm going back to. I think we need a holistic plan for our stormwater. We need to know what items need to be done and what impact they're going to have and what order they need to be done in. Because, if we do things in the wrong order, we could worsen flooding in some areas of the city. We need to know what we're doing before we do it, instead of deciding on a specific dollar amount to put in it because we don't have funding. I think we need to finish funding a holistic study and plan. And whatever that amount is where we should start for stormwater, in my opinion. I think, of course, getting more community involvement and things, and hopefully getting a referendum passed in the future. But I think all of that happens easier when everyone understands what we're doing and what we're working toward and what needs to be done. Adam Steiner?
I just want to say I agree with the fact that we should have a better plan and kind of prioritize, because if we set a goal of like, we need to do this first, we can snowball our effect down to get us to where we need to be. And creating that plan for the citizens, I think people will be more understanding of what we're doing as opposed to looking for cash grabs from the city. It's like a lot of people were saying, it's like it's just a cash grab. It's like there is a need for it, but you have to give them a reason why we're paying that money. Why is this fee imposed? And I think if you really clearly label that out, people will start to come around to the idea of it, and it'll work out a little bit better that way.
Right, and I think, I mean, an improvement plan, just like our capital improvement plan or anything else, it just makes things more logical. If we know we have to spend X amount of dollars and this is where we should start, then even if we have to borrow for it or whatever means of funding we have to do, we can set up a plan on, you know, if we're borrowing this much, we know what the debt service is. Like, it just, throwing a random number at it just doesn't make sense to me. Any other? So, I don't know, maybe Kyle or Jerry, where are we in finalizing a study and a more holistic view of our stormwater?
Actually, Jason might be.
Or Jason, yeah.
Yeah. If Jason had, he might be able to give a sort of an idea of where we're at in the spectrum of, you know, studying in the projects. He does have a list of things on the back page of the memo. That's just sort of, you know, none of these are actually designed and specifically costed out. But this is some preliminary ideas of what some projects would be. But we could definitely bring back some task order options for a more complete study. It sounds like what we're looking for is not only the projects, sort of the priority and probable estimates of cost.
Right, and that's my biggest concern is I want to do it the right way instead of trying to piecemeal things. Like, it's something with like stormwater. If we start with the low-hanging fruit, like if this project is $15,000 and this one's $700,000, we're afraid of the $700,000 project, but maybe this $15,000 project is going to make the $700,000 project worse or influence or negatively affect something elsewhere. So, like, it's human nature to jump at the things that we can reasonably afford right now, but they might not be the right things, and that's what I want. I want to know what is the right thing to start with, and then we can plan that amount of money for that, whether we pass a referendum in the future or we have to take it from somewhere else or borrow, whatever it is. I think we need to know where we're going. Any other thoughts? Is that enough direction, or is there more?
I think that's enough to bring back quite a bit of information for more discussion, so right. I think that's good.
Yeah. I think it'd be helpful for us to have a little more. I think it'd be helpful for all the citizens to have a little more info. All right. If nothing further on that, then probably keep it open for our next meeting so that hopefully we'll have a little bit more direction and things to go with. Thank you. Then item number 11 is to review the personnel manual review update. Let's see here. So, of course, we formed a committee to review the personnel manual. Wow, I can't. Close enough. Yeah, the handbook. Thank you. It's a handbook. That is an easier word to say. All right. So there were a lot of preliminary ideas. It's been proposed to break it into 2 separate manuals, one for, I said at that time, one for like the benefits and then one for policies. Or there's been a lot of proposals that would have financial impact on the city. So I think the biggest thing tonight is to give direction on what we expect out of the committee for reviewing the personnel manual. To preface it, in my opinion, the committee should be looking at mostly like the layout of it, making sure there's no errors, making sure everything looks appropriate. I don't think the committee needs to be looking at compensation at all. We are paying good money to a firm to evaluate compensation and benefits and all sorts of things of that nature. I think having a committee doing it simultaneously is kind of, you know, just chasing the circle. And I also don't really think it's our place to be going that deep into the weeds, personally. So my thoughts are that keep it together. I don't think it needs to be separated out, but to focus on the areas like language and more broad changes, and nothing financial. I don't think the council or the committee that made up of the council needs to be worried about individual compensations and benefits at this time. Any thoughts?
I do. So we're having the comp study, so does that mean, are you putting the responsibility into the comp study to look at that then? To make potential changes if necessary, or is that not a road that we're going down?
This part of the study is compensation. The large part of the study is compensation and benefits. That was like the entire purpose of spending the money on a professional firm.
So we're going to be going off their recommendations then, is what you're suggesting?
I think that's prudent. That is what we are elected to do. Any other thoughts?
Reed here. So I would definitely want to wait on the professional compensation study. I would never have the hire group be the last end all be all. There could be no other comparables found ever than the company we've hired, but I do want them to be the one kind of, just in the lead. On the book, I prefer just being one book, like an A and B section, just keeping it all together.
Thank you, Alder Reed. Any other thoughts? All right, so definitely want more than my voice giving directions on this. Alder Steiner, what do you think the committee should be looking into compensation at this time, or just focusing primarily on language and things of that nature?
Probably just language. I think compensation would be a different discussion altogether than what you're going through in the manual. I mean, I haven't seen the review or anything like that, but I would say compensation would be a different discussion, but it could be all in one book as 2 different sections, just to simplify things when doling out these things.
Okay, so I'm keeping it basically how it is. Alder Rolke.
I would be comfortable just focusing on language at this time and circling back as needed after the professional review.
Perfect. Thank you, Alder Rolke. And Mayor Arnold?
Yeah, I agree with Alder Rolke and with you. And
perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
That's fine.
All right, so that should be good enough for direction on that. Thank you, everyone. And then next up is item number 12, which is to convene to closed session per 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss potential developments in the city of Columbus. All right, I will take a motion.
Alder Rolke will move to convene to close session per state statute 19.851E.
I have a motion from Alder Rolke and a second from Mayor Arnold to convene to close session per 19.851E. And could we take a roll call, please?
Albright?
Aye.
Arnold? Aye. Gray?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Rolke?
Aye.
Steiner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we are now in closed session. We will not be returning to the air for any further deliberations. So thank you all for tuning in. Good night.